The views and opinions expressed by the guests, callers, and hosts on this and all Rense Radio Network programs do not necessarily reflect or agree with those of the network, its commercial sponsors, its radio station affiliates, or internet broadcast platforms. In these controversial times, we believe the First Amendment and freedom of the press are absolutely essential to the survival of our nation. Thank you. And now, enjoy the program.
There's much going on, much more than I can even imagine trying to cover in an hour or even 5 hours. Gerald Celente is with us this first hour tonight. Gerald's new issue of Trends is out. He is just a remarkable man. He's been at this game of life a long time. He's able to see things well ahead because he looks, he thinks, he reads, he processes, and he has an intuitive sense about the human condition that all mixes together to bring trends research, the TrendsJournal, our way, and it's out now. Welcome back, Gerald.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Jeff.
Listen, I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but at Rense there is a story, and the first word of the story is horror. It's at the top of the center column, and it is in the latest Fukushima updates box. It says, horror, proof Pacific, almost extinct of life, radiation. And it's a video. And I got hold of this yesterday, and a gentleman who has been a professional diver his entire life. He is, he's actually done much more than that. He's very skilled. His name is Dana Durnford, D-U-R-N-F-O-R-D, Dana Durnford. What, have you seen it, Gerald? Have you heard about it yet? You will.
No, I haven't. But I will look at it, and matter of fact, I've been, I'm not to the extent that you have. We try to keep Trends in the News videos that we do every weekday, bringing Fukushima to the forefront, but not at the level you are.
Well, wait till you see this. You're,
all right, I'm looking it up now, and I'm going to look at it, and we will also tell our listeners about it as well.
Well, thank you.
And as a matter of fact, yesterday, just to let you know that I was mentioning it, the Japanese GDP, gross domestic product, fell 6.7%.
Biggest
That's
dive
huge.
since 3/11.
Exactly, when Fukushima, the tragedy hit.
Yeah.
And so we mentioned that, and then I went on to say, but everything's okay over there. You know, it's perfect. They contain the situation.
Right.
There's no problems at all.
No.
You know, make sure you have that sushi. You'll love it.
Yeah.
It'll make you glow in the dark and live longer.
Take your kids swimming in the waters off Fukushima. We got a story about that one, too. Listen, let me tell you briefly what it is, Gerald. And what we've done, this is an hour and 15-minute video. I watched the whole thing. I have my editor, we're just about to upload it, reduced it to 20 minutes. We've tightened it up, and I've talked to Dana, and he's elated about that. So we'll have the shorter version up in an hour, probably. But what he did, having grown up on the coast of British Columbia as a diver. He used to run 14 dive ships, commercial dive ships, going down for sea urchins for the Asian market and all that. The man knows basically every meter of the British Columbia coast. He has, as of 9 months ago, gotten on to the Fukushima cover-up by watching what we've been doing at Rense. And he said, I talked to the guy a couple times, wonderful man. He said, it took me 9 months to get caught up to where you are. And I went with a friend, this is, I guess, a week ago, on a trip up the British Columbia coast, 200 kilometers. And he said, I dove these waters hundreds of times. I know every bit of that coastline. 200 kilometers up the coast on the inland side of Vancouver Island, that enormous 300-mile-long island. He found on the coast where the waters meet the sand and the tide pools and the rocks, that there was absolutely no life left. It's gone. No kelp beds, no fish, no snails, no crabs, no sea anemones, no urchins, nothing. It looks like Mars with water. Here and there a little hint of green. There are over 5,000 species of animals that normally inhabit the waters along the shores. There are over 600 species of vegetation that normally inhabit the waters along the shores, from the kelp beds, the bull kelp, inland to the actual, the little green stuff that you see in tide pools. He found in 200 kilometers, Gerald, 4 total remaining species visible, identifiable, and only occasionally observable out of 5,600. It's dead. It's gone. He told very eloquently in his video how the shoreline, 30 feet deep of water and into where the surf meets the actual rocks or the sand, that's called the nursery of the ocean, the nursery of the sea. He said the nursery is dead. There's no more nursery there. Now, if you look at a map, and let me finish this, the North Pacific current comes from Japan, really off the island of Honshu, very close to Fukushima, and arches all the way across the Pacific Ocean at about 10 knots. It runs into Vancouver Island. Now, the damage that he found was on the inland side. There's an inlet there. There's all kinds of water and inlets on the inner side of the island, between the mainland and the island. This damage, this annihilation, is on the inside. That current hit Vancouver Island, and there's so much radiation built up now after 3.5 years, it went around the island and circulated as the ocean waters do, and literally has annihilated all ocean life, which is what I've, been saying for 3.5 years is going to happen. Yoichi Shimatsu has been right with me all the way. This man has done a videotape which shows exactly what these assholes have done with Fukushima. There is no more life along the British Columbia coast for at least 200 clicks. He's going back in another week to make another longer trip further north. He said, Jeff, there aren't even any insects along the tide pools. There are no insects on my windshield on my car. No insects in the grill of my truck. Nothing. It's gone. It's dead. That's what we have done to this planet, and what I'm telling you has happened along the coast of British Columbia is in all likelihood going to do the same thing to the entire Pacific coast and then the rest of the planet.
I see it already has 56,000 views and some wonderful comments. I want to read to you, this is from my book Trends 2000 that I wrote in 1996. Mm-hmm. And it was a Warner book. It was in 17 different languages. In Chapter 7, From Meltdown to Mayhem. And I go on to say, new trucks develop faults as well, from Ford to Intel to NASA, there has never been a manufacturer of anything who did not produce a lemon. Whether it's Ford recalling 8.7 million vehicles or Intel manufacturing 5.5 million defective Pentium computer chips, or the dozens of failed or exploding space launches, there has never been a fault-free technology. In 1995, there were 432 nuclear reactors worldwide and 42 under construction. And then I start to list them. New Delhi closes 8 nuclear plants. This is AP without going into the language. 7/10/93. Canadian nuke plant closed. AP 13/12/94. Reactor cracks. 7 U.S. nuclear reactors developed cracks, and 3 others appear they could crack, according to the group of utilities that use the reactors. 7/1/94. Vital gauge in reactor found prone to error. Federal regulators said today that nuclear plants around the country were using instruments to measure the depth of cooling water in reactors that were prone to error and could lead to operator error in the event of an accident. New York Times, 7/30/92. Nuclear plant is criticized on procedures. The failure of employees to follow established work control procedures led to last month's shutdown of 9 Mile Point, 1 nuclear reactor, federal reactor, New York Times, 3/5/92. Shutdowns. 3 nuclear power plants went through emergency shutdowns Saturday, but for different reasons. 8/24/92. Uranium leak at Tennessee laboratory brings fears of accidental chain reaction. Uranium leaking from an old experimental reactor at Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee has lodged in a pipe outside the nuclear reactor building, raising fears of an accidental nuclear chain reaction. New York Times, 11/25/94. On and on and on and on. Page after page after page, I listed them.
Yeah.
Fukushima is just one of them. The whole world is ready to go.
You got it. The point of no return, ladies and gentlemen, is behind us. Nuclear power will kill us. This is an extinction event.
Uranium rusting in storage pools is troubling U.S. 12/8/24. Mishaps, I love that word. Cast pall over big atomic waste site.
Yeah.
7/5/15/93. Deadly nuclear waste seems to have leaked into Washington State. Hey, don't worry about it. It's okay. One after another, page after page after page after page.
I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. Hanford.
So Fukushima is just one of the many tragedies being caused by madmen and sociopaths.
They're insane. We are going to die sooner rather than later unless nuclear power is ended now. We have to find some place to put the waste. There's no place. They haven't put it anywhere. No, this has been going on for how long? All around.
This stuff is still stored above in these rusted old tanks, leaking everywhere.
Well,
I can't imagine why cancer rates are going so high.
No,
let's do a study. I got an idea. I got a lot of friends we could give the money to in government, and they could do a study.
Oh, let's do it. A study.
Yeah, I mean, we'll put together a commission. A blue ribbon panel of a bunch of wankers from the Republican and Democratic Party.
Sure, the new Warren Commission, looking in on nuclear power. Folks, this is not a joke. Dana, who did the film, the video, which you can see, I'm putting my new one up here momentarily, the short version, has already gotten Gerald death threats on the phone, email.
Oh, I'm sure.
And other things have happened to his home already, which I'm not at liberty to disclose, this is deadly serious. They have kept this a secret for 3.5+ years. How many news conferences have we heard, ladies and gentlemen, from the Environmental Protection Agency telling us about the catastrophe at Fukushima and what it has been doing to the Pacific Ocean for 3.5 years? You've heard zero. TEPCO, the lying scumbucket company that it is, admits to 400 metric tons of highly radioactive water a day being dumped into the Pacific. We say it's over 1,000 easy. 3.5 years nonstop. Remember the yachtsman, my last little bit here, the yachtsman who sailed his yacht from Osaka to San Francisco. He's done it many times before. He does it because he says he is so overwhelmed, enthralled, enchanted, and blown away by the amount of life and the diversity of life in the Pacific Ocean from coast to coast. Do you know what he found from the Japanese coast to San Francisco in his last trip? He held a news conference. I think he's an Australian. He held a news conference when he got to San Francisco. He found and saw during the entire 4,000-mile trip 2 fish, 1 bird, and 1 whale with a tumor on its head. That's it. He said the ocean is broken. And that was about a year ago. Did you hear about it? Did Fox, did CNN report that? Did anybody tell you but me and a few others?
I just read you, and there's page after page of accidents and tragedies that I listed.
Horrible.
When I wrote, and you don't hear those things being reported at all anymore.
No,
they used to be.
No, you just recited something you'll never see. I hope you pay attention to what Gerald just read you, and I hope you enroll and become a subscriber to Trends Research. It's the only way you're going to get the truth. We do our best here. Gerald is just moving mountains over there. We work together. There aren't many at this level. There aren't many honest people left, Gerald. You know that. They're crooks. They're intel agents. They're whatever. They're whores. They're ego trippers. At this level, where can you go for the truth? Trends Research? Yeah. Rense? Yeah. Where else? I couldn't tell you. Not at this level.
Well, there's one person also. I respect a number of them. And one in the area is Gary Null. Do you know Gary Null?
Gary has been at it a long time, and he's a straight shooter. Yep.
And he doesn't pull any. And this guy, he's one of the first people talking about natural healing and.
Oh yeah, no, Gary's a legend. Absolutely, I'm glad you mentioned that.
And a friend.
But
there are a number of, but a very few of us.
A handful.
And it's your audience and mine. And we're in very crucial times. I was very sad for about 2 straight weeks. I just couldn't kick it. And what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on with the genocide of Gaza, and the support.
Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, go on
Yemen,
and on. Yemen.
Bahrain.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and just on and on and on. And we are leading into the first great war, which I wrote, of the 21st century. It's underway. And people are just waiting for that Archduke Ferdinand moment.
Yeah.
That sparked World War I.
False flag.
And when you talk about World War I and the Archduke Ferdinand moment, people forget that this guy was, ready to take the throne of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, and he was in Serbia, an occupied country.
Yeah.
And you know what they call the people that killed him? Terrorists.
Yeah.
So that would be like people from Afghanistan, Germany, Japan, occupying the United States, and you or I or any of the listeners out there wanting to blow the SOB's brains out for trying to control us. We would be called terrorists today. Anybody that tries to protect their territory from occupiers are terrorists.
Absolutely.
Do you know that every Palestinian is a terrorist? They're Palestinian terrorists. Just read the New York Times. Pick up the Wall Street Journal. Listen to Fox, ABC, CBS, NBC. They can't say a word without mentioning Palestinian terrorists.
They also now have identified, formally and officially, Americans who disagree with the government as being terror problems, terror objects to log and watch and observe. It's all gone where we knew it was going to go, and it went awfully fast, and it's incredibly sad. I just don't have an answer for it anymore, Gerald. I don't.
I want to read you a quote. This is from Bob Schieffer.
Uh-huh.
I can't stand this guy.
Yeah, he's
CBS.
He was born a punk.
This little clown.
Yeah.
I remember him at the last debate between Kerry and Bush. The last question. This is what this little boy with a big ego says. You know? Now remember, this is the presidential debate, the last debate. The last question. You know, the three of us have something in common. And I said to myself, how did you get involved in this? All of us have strong wives. Yeah, that Bob Schieffer.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
That's just
what a joker, right? So here he goes.
Yeah.
In the Middle East, the Palestinian people find themselves in the grip of a terrorist group that has embarked on a strategy. You ready for this?
Yeah.
To get their own children killed in order to build sympathy for its cause.
Yeah.
Now, you want to talk about a sick little man?
Yeah.
A strategy that actually may be working, at least in some quarters. Last week, I found a quote of many years ago by Golda Meir. Let me stop there for a second.
Oh,
Golda Meir. Golda Meir said there's no such thing as Palestinians.
Right.
So I'll continue. One of Israel's early leaders, which might have been said yesterday, quote, "We can forgive the Arabs for killing our children, but we can never forgive them for forcing us to kill their children." And they put this woman up there like she's a sane person.
I know.
You can't, we can nobody's forcing you to kill anybody. I am sick and tired of the propaganda coming out of here by that Hamas is using the Palestinian children. Some almost 2,000 people have been killed as, quote, human shields. Mm-hmm. This is a country 7 miles wide by 25 miles long with 1.8 million people crammed into there. Number two, the Israelis have been bombing UN schools and sanctuaries, of which they have the coordinates and they know the people are there.
And the hospitals.
And the hospitals. Number three, they use the same 2-bit lying baloney that Hamas was using mosques and hospitals to hide their missiles, those bottle rockets that have no, they're crude weapons that have killed.
They land out in the desert.
Yeah, they've killed no one. 3 Israelis have died, 2 of heart attacks, and 1 of a mortar fire. That they said in 2008 and 2009, the UN found when they did this before Israel that was not true. They're lying again.
It's all unbelievable, and it's for real. That's the problem. All right, I'm putting up. Go ahead.
No. So anyway, that they are putting out this propaganda.
Oh, yeah.
Is disgusting.
It is thoroughly disgusting. It's all reverse projection. It's up as down, black as white. It's lie after lie after lie. Unbelievable lies.
So the other point I want to make, with all these lies about Hamas, and I heard this guy Jake Tepper on CNN say early on that the Muslims and the Palestinians believe that by being martyrs, they will go to a. He actually said this stuff.
Good luck,
that these
Jake.
people enjoy being killed because they're going to go into an afterlife, or words to that effect. So the next point I want to make, Jeff, is okay. Let's suppose that they are using these people as human shields, which again the UN found not to be true.
Correct. Yep.
But suppose they were,
mm-hmm.
and they are. Are you going to slaughter them anyway?
Hold on a second. We got to take this break. Hold that thought. Think about that, friends, and we'll be right back. Okay, right back with Gerald. The quotes coming out of Israel have almost defied belief that human beings would say some of the things. There was a young woman, I guess she's in the parliament there, minister of parliament, in her early 20s. She said all females in Palestine, except she called it Gaza, should be killed. So they can't give birth to any more snakes. There have been others. Rabbis have been saying that genocide is perfectly fine. We all know that this may be the final push, the final genocide. The Zionist Israelis, they want Gaza. I mean, hell, they may put the Dubai or the Mediterranean up there, Gerald. They want tourism, they want ag, they want gas and petroleum, and they want the whole thing. And they're going to drive these people out of there one way or the other. That's my feeling and has been for a long time.
Well, it is. It's exactly what they're doing. And the other thing, too, I'm not an anti-Semite. My last three girlfriends were Jewish.
We don't even have to go there.
But I just want to make this really clear, that the people that are running Israel are colonists from Europe. As you well know, they're Ashkenazi.
That's right.
And they were found, and the Zionist movement was found by Theodor Herzl. And he was born in Pest, Budapest, the eastern region. And when you go back to the 19th to 20th century, there was colonization going on throughout the area, whether it was the Dutch, the Portuguese, the Spanish, the French, the English. Country after country was colonizing the Middle East and Africa. And they all had their own fairy tale as to why they should be there.
Perfect word. Fairy tale.
And that's all it is. And as a matter of fact, when you look at every one of the Israeli prime ministers, from Ben Gurion to Golda Meir to Sharon, Begin, Perez.
The little Erdgun killer, Begin.
Yep. They were all, and are all, including Netanyahu, Ashkenazi. They are European colonizers. They used the World War II as the excuse to go to another country and colonize it.
Yep.
End of story. They are not Semites. The Palestinians, however, of which Golda Meir, of course, said there aren't any, they are Semites. Semites are from that region.
Correct.
And some 50% of Israel is made up of Ashkenazi. And when you look at the Israeli parliament and the Israeli government, most of them are Ashkenazi. I have a quote. This was from...
let me underscore what Gerald said. Look at their faces, all right? What do you see? Do you see a European face, or do you see a Palestinian face, an olive-skinned Arab face? No, you see a European face. This is what he's talking about, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah, this is a colonization.
Exactly.
That's all it is. So if you want to call me anything, it's not accurate, but call me an anti-Ashkenazi. And as, of course, to say I'm not against all Ashkenazis, all I'm saying is it's an Ashkenazi invasion. The facts stand by themselves. And also, if you put in Theodor Herzl, Herzl, the father of Zionism, like him, hate him, agree, disagree, not the issue. The fact is, he was the father of Zionism. The point I want to make is, one person changed it. Good, bad, or indifferent. And what I'm saying is that one person out there has the power to change things for the positive. It doesn't have to always go into the negative. Here's a quote. This is from the Wall Street Journal, and you know I read continually.
Yeah.
And I read as much as I can. And the headline reads, "Formerly Orthodox and Struggling for Parental Rights." It's about this young kid. He got married when he was 18, an arranged marriage, and he didn't want to go through with it. He wanted a divorce, and it's very hard to get a divorce out of the Hasidic community. I want to read this quote. Given the religious observance plays such a dominant role in Orthodox Jewish life, with children attending Jewish schools and families, viewing closely to Judaic traditions and rabbinical commandments, upending the religious foundations can affect a young child's long-term emotional well-being, said Rabbi Zweibel. And what he goes on to say, and I have to pick this up here. Let me find it. From a religious perspective, certainly, now remember, this is Rabbi Zweibel, who is the executive vice president of Agudath Israel of America. This is an organization that represents Orthodox Jews.
Mm-hmm.
From a religious perspective, certainly, there is a sense among Orthodox Jews that Jews are born with a special mission as, quote, this is all a quote, God's chosen people. I take exception to that.
Oh, do I ever with you.
My God, Mr. Zweibel, all people are created equal. How dare you shove this garbage down my throat? And don't tell me about your fairy tale. Why, you believe it. I don't care. I have a different one. And I believe that all people are created equal, and this attitude that you are producing and promoting, that quote, among Orthodox Jews, that Jews are born with a special mission from God's chosen people, I take offense to that. How dare you? And you know what else, Jeff? I started thinking about this. Let's not call them Orthodox Jews. Let's call them radical fundamentalists, just like they would call a radical Islamic fundamentalist.
Or a Christian fundamentalist.
Or a radical Christian fundamentalist.
Yeah.
No. We're going to change the fairy tale.
Yeah.
We're going to make them better than us. And that's the problem over here. Everyone is equal. All men are created equal.
I've always said that we're an equal opportunity mourner for all those who are slaughtered in the conquests and imperialistic moves that these companies and corporatocracies
This is no different than any other radical statement by any other radical fringe element, and they believe it just like all the other radicals do.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want them trying to shove it down my throat. If Mr. Zweibel wants to come to talk to me about it, we can discuss it man to man.
Indeed. All right, we have to pause just for a couple of minutes. We'll come right back with Gerald as we continue. Okay, back with Gerald. And don't forget, he mentioned Theodore Herzl. That's correct. 1880s, Zionism. Then you have Marxism, socialism, Bolshevism, and communism. We still have Bolshevism today. And those five things add up to what? They add up to the deaths of between 150 and 200 million people in the last 150 years. That's all. Think about it. This has nothing to do with being a member of the Jewish faith. This Zionism is a secular geopolitical movement of world domination and hegemony. That's all it is. It's a crushing, immoral, heartless, merciless machine of absolute subjection.
You know, this line about God's chosen people, it's the American version is exceptionalism.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same garbage.
It's garbage.
And I don't want to hear it. And I find it offensive. How dare you tell me my God, who preaches equality and everyone's supposed to treat everyone in the same manner? Oh no, you got a different story, and your God says that you're better than everybody? Hey, go screw yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm going to read to you what you were quoting before about that woman who you mentioned. Her name is Gcelente, and she's a member of the Israeli parliament.
Yeah, she was. She was worked in the education division. Wonderful.
And here she goes. This is war. It is not a war against terror, and not a war against extremists, and not even a war against the Palestinian Authority. There are forms of avoiding reality. This is a war between two people. Who is the enemy? The Palestinian people. Every war is between two peoples. And in every war, the people who started the war, that whole people is the enemy. Remember, this is a member of the Israeli parliament.
Right.
She goes on to say, beyond every terrorist stands dozens of men and women. They're terrorists, of course.
Oh, always.
Yeah, people that are being occupied and living in a prison, an open-air prison where you can't get out by air, land, or water.
No, world's biggest open-air prison.
Right. Without whom he could not engage in terrorism. They are all enemy combatants, and their blood shall be on all their heads. Now this also includes the mothers of the martyrs, who send them to hell with flowers and kisses. I'm sure you've seen those dead kids, about 500 of them.
Oh,
yeah, they
easy.
have flowers and kisses all over them.
All over them.
Yeah, they should follow their sons. Nothing would be more just. They should go as should the physical homes in which they raise the snakes. Otherwise, more little snakes will be raised there. End quote.
Well, that's the whole quote, and I really thank you for reading that. We had little snippets of it in the headlines here and there. That's a vile excuse for an alleged human being.
And that's what's going on. It's genocide.
Sure
they want to get rid of all the Palestinians. And I know the story, and the story is there for anyone that has the will and the desire to look at the facts. Here's the way the fairy tale went. 3 Israeli children were killed, teenagers, in, quote, occupied territory. They blamed Hamas.
You want to prove Hamas did it?
And the Israeli chief of police said it wasn't Hamas. They said it was a fringe element.
That's right.
Number 2, when that happened, the Israelis went in, slaughtered about a dozen Palestinians in retribution. They took one Palestinian boy, poured gasoline down his throat, and burned him alive. And they also took several hundred Palestinian people and threw them in jail, along with the other men, women, and children that are suffering in Israeli jails as we speak.
Exactly. Yeah, many of them will never get out. They murder these people with impunity. It's like a sport to them.
Then the Palestinians, or the terrorists, as this woman would call them, they fired those crude rockets.
Mm-hmm. You and I could make one in the garage.
And they've killed no one.
0.
And then Israel retaliated. That was the excuse. And then the second part of the story became, we're going after them terror tunnels. That was the second part of the story. Tunnels.
Oh yeah.
You can't get out by air, sea, or land. Yes, they had tunnels. Did they use these tunnels to launch any attacks into Israel because these tunnels weren't built last week? No. They were using the tunnels as defense shelters and to do trade outside the area.
They were using them to survive, Gerald.
Exactly.
Medical supplies, critical infrastructure, tools, devices, you name it.
So
cement.
the quote terror tunnel story became a second chapter that was made up.
That's right. They throw this term around, anti-Semite. There was a woman, a very brave Israeli Jewish woman. I have a tremendous admiration for her. Her name is Shulamit Aloni, and she was a minister in the parliament, former Israeli minister. Listen to what she says. This is a short clip. She's interviewed by Amy Goodman here, another Zionist gatekeeper, but we'll leave that for another day. Listen to what the former Israeli minister has to say about using the term anti-Semite or anti-Semitic to try to shut down debate and opposition.
Exactly.
Now listen to what she says.
I can criticize every other government, including mine, but I can't call murderers because they try to throw that two-bit label on you.
Here's what she says.
And then, by the way, the other now, if the Palestinians were a couple of shades lighter, we could call them resistance fighters.
Insurgents or resistance fighters. Yeah, or patriots. Exactly.
And then if they were a couple of shades darker, Eric Holder and Obama, then they could blame this on racism. So, but what's going to happen, being that they have no place to live anymore, and over 30,000 homes have been destroyed, and some 120,000 people are refugees with nowhere to go, maybe baking in the sun will get them the color that Holder and Obama, then they could say it's racism.
You got it. Listen to this little quote, though. I think you may have heard this, you may not, but I think everyone needs to hear this occasionally. This is a very, very interesting moment in journalism.
When there is dissent expressed in the United States against policies of the Israeli government, people here are called anti-Semitic. What is your response to that as an Israeli Jew?
Well, it's a trick. We always use it.
It's a trick.
When from Europe somebody is criticizing Israel, then we bring up the Holocaust. When in this country people are criticizing Israel, then there are anti-Semitic. And the organization is strong and has a lot of money, and the ties between Israel and the American Jewish establishment are very strong, and they are strong in this country. As you know, they have power, which it's okay. They are talented people, and they have power, money, and media, and other things. And their attitude is Israel, my country, right or wrong, the identification. And they are not ready to hear criticism. And it's very easy to blame people who criticize certain acts of the Israeli government as anti-Semitics, and to bring up the Holocaust and the suffering of the Jewish people. And that justify everything we do to the Palestinians.
Yeah. Does it?
I was put politely. I have a solution, by the way. I'm always hearing that Israel is the great democratic country in the Middle East.
Right, especially when they have two sets of roads, one for Israelis and one for the Arabs. That's
right. They're the great So there you go. Let's call it a one-state solution. Take down those walls, Mr. Netanyahu.
Indeed.
A one-state solution. All people are created equal. You can't have it both ways. You're either going to make it a democratic nation or call it an apartheid one.
That French diplomat set it up perfectly once. I don't want to repeat it on air, but they're anything but a democracy. Anything. The world's most overtly racist.
But every two-bit politician in this country,
goes over
matter
there
of
and
fact,
grovels.
our governor over here, Cuomo, is there visiting them now.
Oh, they go over and grovel. It's enough to make you vomit.
And for votes and money.
That's all. They're
for
whores.
Votes and money.
They're whores.
Yep.
Political whores. That's exactly all they are. We have run out of time here. Give us a number for people to call to subscribe to the Trends Journal. It's just a wonderful magazine.
TrendsJournal.com, and we're launching Occupy Peace, No Foreign Entanglements, Rebuild America. It's occupypeace.us. There'll be more announcements coming up. I don't want my money going to Israel. I don't want it going to Italy, Ireland. I don't want it going anywhere but to Americans. I am an American. My country first. No foreign entanglements. I stand on the sides of Washington, Jefferson, Franklin, Madison, and Adams, and not the traitors to the Constitution.
Oh, amen. Thank you, Gerald. You take care. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, good night. Gerald Celente. Okay, we'll be right back with more.